Hi, this is Travis with Rick and Jacob, and we're talking toast, and we're going over all things baseball. And fellas, what we want to talk about this evening?
Well, we got some big news in the free agency.
Ooh, buddy.
Oh,
Ooh,
money!
buddy.
I hear money.
Yeah, money,
Oh, money and
money.
buddy. And should I tell him or do you
Go
want to tell?
for it.
All right. So, Travis, I don't know if you've heard. This is my favorite time of Major League Baseball's year. Guess what?
Nice. What?
Jacob DeGrom, 5 years, 185 million.
Ooh.
Texas Rangers.
Really?
Yep.
Dang.
I know. I wish our Reds would have pulled the trigger.
What else we got? I know that Judge has some offers out there. What's going on with him?
I don't even remember what I read yesterday. Do you remember, Rick?
Something about the San Francisco Giants have made him a serious offer. Has got a whole lot of years and a whole lot of dollar signs.
Now
Well,
it is. Go ahead, Jacob.
he did hit what, 63 home runs this year, so he's worth money wherever he goes.
I think the last dollar amount that I seen was the Yankees. I don't know if it's been confirmed or not, but the Yankees are doing 8 years, 300 million. It puts him a couple $1 million more than what Mike Trout's making right now. He would be the highest paid player in Major League Baseball.
I think per season they said it would be 37.5 million.
Yeah, 37. That's what I seen. So I guess my question to you guys is, does he stay in New York?
Okay. I want to say no, but the Yankees would be stupid to let him go. Now, granted, if you look at the history of any big contract ever signed, Joey Votto, for instance, 2010 National League MVP, signs a 10-year, $150 million deal with the Reds. Didn't play worth a dog the next year.
It does happen sometimes.
Yankee Stadium is suited for Judge.
It is, but there is a stadium that's better suited for Aaron Judge. Um, According to Statcast, had Aaron Judge played his home games at Great American Ballpark, he would have hit 73 home runs this season. Not that the Castellinis would do anything about that, but where's Judge going to go, right? Certainly not to Ohio, certainly not to Cincinnati. So if we had to, is it New York, is it San Francisco, or is there another team out there that might be a dark horse that swoops in?
I would almost can't say I can put money on it because I can't.
Well, and I guess
Go ahead.
I guess it's really I guess it depends on what his goal is, right? If he wants to be a well-paid player, right? And see what he can do outside of New York. I think he grew up in California, went to high school there. That might be something that he wants to explore. Um, but I mean, he is one of those naturally born Yankees, like Jeter, and most of Murderers Row and all that stuff. So I think with Judge, there's a lot of Yankee fans are more forgiving of the homegrown players than they are like maybe somebody like Stanton, or Rizzo. Rizzo resigned, right?
Yep.
Why would he resign? Um, that might be a different topic altogether, right? Um, but for Judge, I mean, is it San Francisco? Is it New York or somewhere else?
I'll make the first prediction. Judge is going home. He's going to San Fran.
Ooh,
I'm gonna say probably about, let's see here, say about 10 years, $330 million. There's my prediction.
It's a bold prediction.
And the back end of that contract, a lot of teams end up paying for what the person was and not what they can produce. So, does that hurt them in the long run?
No, you can always trade. You can always get prospects. It don't matter. Don't matter
It's
the age
true.
of it. Cincinnati could trade Joey Votto right now and get prospects for him.
They probably could. They probably could. Jacob, what do you think? San Francisco, New York, or someplace else?
I got to go with Rick on San Fran, but you never know. He might just end up in Atlanta.
Ooh,
I hope not.
that's interesting. Him in Atlanta would be interesting. I'm going to play it safe. And for me, if I were in that situation, never mind that him not re-signing, he's guaranteed to make at least $80 million more than what he would have made, right? Um, him doing the free agency thing was a good move for him, but if it's me and we're talking multi millions of dollars, I don't necessarily know that another 30 million would matter. The prospect of being a lifetime Yankee and having a monument in Monument Park, I think plays heavy into a lot of people's choices, maybe. Or at least it'd be something I would consider. So he might want to be one of those lifetime Yankees and have one of those monuments out in Monument Park, but I think for him to do that, he's going to have to actually produce a championship.
Yep. Yep.
That one was interesting. I'm going to stop the screen share real quick and go back to our cameras, and let's pull up some notes on the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame's coming up. Um, aside from DeGrom and well, let's don't go to the Hall of Fame yet. Aside from DeGrom and Judge and where he's going to go, the Mariners and Brewers did a trade that sends Jesse Winker and Abraham Toro to the Brewers for Colton Wong and about $2 million in cash. For me, I've been calling the Mariners the Seattle Reds for quite a while now, and this kind of just reinforces that a little bit. Well, they're getting rid of some of the Reds cast offs that they
Problems.
ended up getting. Yeah, the problems maybe. Winker is interesting because he had a good season in Cincinnati, was an all-star, goes to Seattle, and for whatever reason does not play like an all-star, I guess. Do you think he finds a second win in Milwaukee, or does he become a liability?
I mean, I think the hope is that he finds a second wind. Anywhere, any new team wants somebody that's going to produce for him.
I am a big Jacob here can tell you I'm a big fan of Jesse Winker. I have been since they brought him up to the bigs. I think what's going to happen, I think he'll get his second win, but it's going to be at the cost of the Cubs, the Pirates, the Reds, the Cardinals. I think
Well,
he's gonna mutilate National League Central hitting
and
or pitching.
well, and that was the division he was in when he was an all-star. So I think there's a lot of merit to that. My personal hope as a Reds fan is that he performs as poorly as what Mike Moustakas has performed for the Reds.
Oh, just don't get me started on that.
For the Brewers, Colton Wong's a good second baseman. I think it strengthens Seattle quite a bit. I don't think they got rid of anything that they desperately had to have. Um, My other note that I have is Jose Abreu is going to Houston, 3-year contract. So does that hurt or help the champs with Abreu signing for him?
Oh, it helps him. I love Jose Abreu as well. I'm not a big American League guy. I never have been. But Jose Abreu, name another first baseman right now in the American League.
Oh,
You can't.
that
You can name
is
Jose Abreu.
that is a good exercise. I hadn't thought about that, but that is a good one.
You've got Trey Mancini, but that's Trey Mancini. But it's Jose Abreu. I think he's got a Gold Glove or two. I'm not sure. I'd have to dig into that one. But I can't be mad at the Astros. I can't be mad at Jose Abreu. He wants a ring. He's given his last 7, 8, 9, 10 years to Chicago for
That's
them
true.
to go to the playoffs once and shit the bed. Oh, sorry.
Crap the bed. Yeah. Um, we'll get it. We'll get a bleep sound effect or something for Rick. Um,
Somebody name me another first baseman in the American League right now.
You can't, not really. But I never really watch American League baseball a whole lot either. So that's I would have to maybe watch ESPN at the middle of the season to attempt to do that. There is Anthony Rizzo. I mentioned him earlier, right? He re-signed with New York. I'm not sure why, but I guess it's worth 17 million per season with a 6 million buyout for a 2025 option. Is that a good deal or bad deal for Rizzo?
I can't say the word I want to say.
Would you say he screwed the pooch with that?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on what his goal is. If his goal is to make some money, he's made some money.
Well, absolutely. There's not a lot I wouldn't do for $17 million.
Well, I mean, did he warm up to the New York crowd and playing in New York? I guess is as the season went on and postseason rolled around. Like, did he warm up? Did he find? Did he get out of the slump? I guess. I mean, I don't know that something that lasts that long is called a slump, but is there a possibility for him to warm up to playing in New York next season? Getting more comfortable with it, getting better at it. I mean, what's your thoughts?
Jacob, I'm gonna let you take this one because I'm gonna say bad words.
Censor yourself.
It's not very easy. All right, so the contract, the $6 million buyout, he's an idiot for signing that contract. Do I think he's warming up to the New York crowd? Absolutely. He had to deal with the assholes in Chicago.
That's true. That's true. Chicago crowds are not. Well, I'm not going to say they're not nice. If you're in Chicago and you're wearing Chicago merchandise, it's a fantastic crowd. I don't know what it would have been like if I'd walked in wearing the other team's colors. But thankfully they were playing the Brewers, not the Reds, so I didn't have to find out. But Chicago can be a rough crowd to play in front of. They usually have a good house in a good crowd in the stadium, and there's a lot of noise, a lot of pressure. They will boo you. Maybe not as quickly as what Philadelphia or New York will, but they will. So if he does warm up to the New York crowd and finds whatever he was missing this past season, is that a good deal for New York?
Yeah, he'll start raking. He'll start being Anthony Rizzo that I saw play at Cincinnati. as a member of the Cubbies. If, and this is just where my mind goes, he can do with Chicago and block them out. He can block New York out.
I think that's fair. We had talked about the Hall of Fame first, as one of our first topics whenever we started this. Going back and looking at that list again just now, do you think Bonds gets in or Clemens?
No. Well, maybe Clemens. Maybe.
Now you say maybe on that, and I guess my question is like, what's the difference between Clemens and Bonds? Because I've always looked at Clemens as the pitching version of Bonds almost.
Roger Clemens didn't break any records while using steroids. He did cheat by using steroids. He didn't break any records, and I'm okay with that.
And pitching, steroids don't make your pitching any more accurate.
Hell no, they don't.
That's true. But that kind of plays into the wheelhouse of the fans that say that the steroids are not going to cause Bonds to turn his hips on a fastball any quicker either.
The hell, it's not. It gives you better back. It gives you better hand-eye coordination. It gives you more pop.
Well, my thing about that, I've never considered that. My thing that I always focused on was, the dog days of summer after you've already played 100 baseball games. If you're using performance enhancing drugs, how much better do you feel than somebody that's not using them? Do you feel refreshed and fresh and like it's still end of May, beginning of June, whenever you get to, end of August, beginning of September? And I think for me, that's where the difference had always lied in at least how I viewed it. And I do think that's one of those things, like location, being able to increase or decrease your speed on a ball, and locating your fastballs and your breaking balls and all that stuff is a whole lot different than playing the field and getting in the batter's box and grinding every day. So how much did it help him? I don't know. Maybe as he got older, it maybe helped Clemens out, but whenever he I think it's whenever he came back to baseball and was I think it's 06, and he was getting ready to he was doing the minor league starts leading up to his major league debut after the All-Star game for Houston. He was pitching in Lexington for the Legends, right? And I saw a kid bottom of the first inning rock him, and steroids or not, like that location, that speed, it didn't really change a whole lot. I don't think it made him throw harder. I don't think it did anything really for him other than maybe he felt a little bit better than what he typically would have if he didn't use them. So with that being said, does it matter if you use a performance enhancing steroids and or drugs and you're crushing all time or season records? Does it paint you in a worse light than somebody that doesn't?
Okay, so here's the problem I have with it. I don't have a problem with him using steroids. I get it. Everybody needs a good old pick me up. What I have a problem of, and this is why I'm not sticking Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame, he lied. He said, "Oh, I didn't take them." Yeah, you did. You got caught. If he would have just said, if he'd have been like, oh God, who are we just talking about? Schilling?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if he'd have been like, no.
Clemens.
Clemens.
If he would have done what Clemens did, I'd put him in the Hall of Fame because Clemens said, "Yep, I used him. I'm old. I need a little help."
All right. Well,
I'd be
and
fine with it.
so with that being said, when I think it was '98 when McGuire and Sosa had their home run duel that went on. Going back and listening to them and watching some documentaries, there wasn't any rules against performance enhancing drugs, creatine and other sorts of things that people were taking back then. Um, both of them, or at least McGuire, I know has said, yeah, I took those. They weren't illegal. Um, what about Mark McGuire?
He should definitely be in the Hall of Fame.
Sammy's been very non-committal about it, hasn't he?
I haven't heard anything about Sammy Sosa in so long. I forgot he existed.
That's fair.
I, I'd have to go back and check. I'd have to do some research, but I think the thing that I took away from I think it's a documentary that ESPN did. It's called Long Gone Summer, and it documents that whole that whole home run duel that they had and chasing the record. I think Sammy has always been more non-committal one way or another versus McGuire coming out and saying, "Hey, yeah, I did that." Um, but since we're talking about it, this has been something that's happened since the last time I seen you guys at Appalachian Power Park. That's being renamed Go Mart Ballpark this upcoming
That's for
season.
another episode.
That is for another episode. But speaking of Hall of Fame and people admitting or denying their guilt or yeah, guilt, I guess is a good word for it. Recently, Pete Rose has written a letter to Robert Manfred, the commissioner of baseball, and it says, "I have apologized many times, both for betting on baseball games while managing the Cincinnati Reds, and then for denying that I did. I'm writing today for three reasons. First, because at my age, I want to be 100% sure that you understand how much I mean it when I say that I'm sorry. Second, to ask for your forgiveness. And third, because I still think every day about what it would mean to be considered for the Hall of Fame." Um, so he writes this letter. Pete is 81 years old. He is the hit king in baseball. He does hold a number of records. I think maybe Nolan Ryan is the only person that holds as could maybe hold a candle to individual records that Pete actually has. So you got Pete asking for and really, is Robert Manfred the person to be writing this letter to?
No, absolutely not. Rob Manfred's an idiot.
Well, and
Let me tell you something about Rob Manfred. He's not a baseball guy. You know that, right?
well, I know that, but I mean,
He's a lawyer.
yeah, in general, there's Major League Baseball, and then there's the Hall of Fame, and a lot of people don't necessarily know the one is independent of the other one. So back whenever this initially happened, Pete, very late '80s. They do the investigation, and Pete basically signs an agreement saying, "Yeah, I'll agree to a lifetime ban as long as we quit, investigating this stuff." Um, Pete agreed to a lifetime ban from Major League Baseball. He didn't necessarily agree to a ban from the Hall of Fame
Exactly.
in Cooperstown. And the Baseball Writers Association of America has always been in charge of who they elect to that. And back then, they didn't have any hard set rules about who was or wasn't considered to be electable. Based on eligibility criteria that they hadn't already had set. And the Reds win the World Series in 1990, and then 1991 rolls around, and um, Cooperstown, the Baseball Hall of Fame, decides to formally uphold the idea that anyone that's received a lifetime ban from Major League Baseball is not eligible for the Hall of Fame. So when Pete agreed to the lifetime ban from baseball, was he agreeing to a ban from the Hall of Fame?
Nope.
I don't know. That wasn't a part of the rule when he signed the ban.
Right. There was always a chance, and I guess that's just it. I mean, and Pete was one of those guys that didn't necessarily, readily admit what he had done. He lied about it, and I don't want to. I mean, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but in my opinion, I think he lied about it to protect himself and to protect baseball and just
Protect his players.
protect his players. And besides that, all the documentaries and books and everything else that I've read about Pete and his upbringing and his relationship with his father, like I know that there's a story Pete tells about like his father told him like don't embarrass me by not playing hard, right? And that kind of fueled Pete to play as hard as what he did, and um winning above everything else, even personal performance was what was instilled in him from his father. Didn't matter if Pete went 0 for 4 in a baseball game. If the baseball team won, he'd still, get pizza or ice cream or whatever it was. If Pete went 4 for 4, and the team lost, Pete wouldn't get ice cream on the way home, because winning was more important than how you did. It's a team game, it's a team sport, and the team wins, right? So, um, knowing all of that, I can see why Pete didn't necessarily come out and say, "Yeah, I bet on baseball," because he knew. I mean, it's been a long-standing thing. They have that sign up in the clubhouses, like "Don't bet on baseball." He knew what came with that, and I think that was embarrassing. I also think that for Pete, gambling was more about winning than making money, because winning was everything. It was held above anything else. So, with all that being said, a lot of times people will say that gambling doesn't affect the on the field performance um, of the team. I mean, especially if you're betting on them, on off days or days they're going to do bad, you just don't bet on them, right? So, but I have had some people point out that there's a lot of times people would use like somebody like Soto on 2, 3 days rest, and have them pitch. So I guess my question to you guys is, um, it doesn't affect the on the field performance until something like that comes into play, right? So if Pete is pitching Soto on 3 days rest, is it because he wants to win, or is it because he bet money on them? And I guess the follow up to that is, if it's because he bet money on them, is that messing with the integrity of the game? And if it's because he wants to win and that was the culture back then, does it matter?
At this point, it doesn't matter at this point in time, but back then, those guys were different, way different.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that's Nolan Ryan's group of guys, right? Like they'd
yep,
throw 200, 300 pitches and then come back out 3, 5, 7 days later and do it again. Their goal was to pitch whole games. They wanted complete games.
yep, they wanted to win. So I think it's you win. He wanted to win. That's to me. That's he wants to win.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that, I think it was more that he did want to win because even with 2 3 days or 2 or 3 days of rest, there's no guarantee that he was still going to throw well.
Right. Yeah, and that's true. And I guess for like that rotation and everybody else, like, I Well, I know you guys more than I know some other people, right? So if I'm going to if I want to win, I'm going to give the ball to people I trust. And I think that's interesting too because he had been around Soto a lot longer, right? So than some of the other pitchers. So maybe it's no wonder that he would pitch Soto on 3 days rest, even though it completely ate his arm up. But then for other people, that didn't happen. So I don't know, that was something interesting that I had kind of come up and I didn't think about that affecting the integrity of the game until that was pointed out to me. And since it had been, I hadn't been as firm in the I've always been a Reds fan, so I'm always going to say Pete Rose is a Hall of Famer, but I hadn't really seen an argument as to how maybe him betting on baseball would affect the on the field product. And since I heard that, I don't necessarily think it's changed my mind about it, because I do believe that Pete wanted to win more than anything, and that includes winning money. He valued winning more than he valued money, as evidenced by his poor management of money throughout the years. Granted, he didn't make what players make now, but he made quite a bit of money back then, and he's had a history of mismanaging it. So to wrap this up before we take a quick little break, we say yes to Clemens, we say no to Bonds. Where we stand at on Pete in the Hall of Fame?
Jacob, you start this one.
I say if Bonds is eligible to go in, there's no reason Pete shouldn't be. Sure, he lied about gambling on the games and signed a lifetime ban, but Bonds lied about steroids. So why is there not a lifetime ban on him?
And I think you bring up a good point. Pete has not even been eligible. He's not even been on the ballot to be considered. And for Bonds to be even on the ballot to be considered it's kind of a double standard. So I like where Jacob's coming from on that. Rick, what about you?
Major League Baseball put the damn guy in the Hall of Fame before he died. The man deserves it. He played all those years. Yeah, we all make mistakes. We're humans. Put the guy in the Hall of Fame. He's your all-time hit leader, for God's sake. Put him in the Hall of Fame. Who cares what happened in 1983 or 90 or whatever year that was?
Well, and not just that, but I mean, there's the 4.256, but there's also the 44 game hit streak, which I think is still a record in the National League, is if I remember right. Extra base hits and all kinds of other stuff. I mean, there's a laundry list of National League and Major League records that Pete Rose has. If it was about character, there's probably 150 people that's in the Hall of Fame that they would yank out of it. Um, I certainly don't think that's anything that should be considered whenever it comes to the Hall of Fame. For me, it's all about the numbers and the performance on the field. Because if we started taking like morals and character into it, then um, would Mickey Mantle be in there? And I guess that's a really good question, right? So so for me, I think that's just it. I think numbers being what they are, like I would want to at least be considered and be eligible to be on the ballot. And at least let my peers decide if I am Hall of Fame worthy or not. So for me, I mean that's the part that's unfair with it. Like if we're going to put the performance enhancing drug using players on the ballot and consider them eligible, then why not Pete? He's 81. let's give him a shot. So, with that being said, we're going to take a small break and
hold on.
Yes, sir.
There's one person that I can compare Pete Rose to that doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame.
Who's
well,
that?
He's not a Hall of Famer anyway.
Who's that?
The year 1869. Shoeless Joe Jackson bet on the World Series to lose the damn thing. Lost it and got a lifetime ban. He definitely doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Pete Rose does because he didn't bet against his games. He didn't bet on his World Series games.
I dig it.
And Major League Baseball can take that one to the damn